Hello. This is my seductive voice. Um, because I am doing a new thing, which is making a video from my bed. I'm inviting you into my bed today. Ooh. Um, I'm liking it so far. It's nice. It's very nice, very comfortable. Um, but I wanted to critique this website here, politicalcompass.org. 22 years. It's been around since 2001, and it's this guy who basically created a Myers-Briggs personality test for politics. So Myers-Briggs personality test is basically you tell us a bunch of stuff about yourself, and then we'll tell you that same information back to you, but just in a different format. And so with this one, it's like we'll tell you what quadrant and what coordinate you are on the quadrants of politics. And so basically this guy had the brilliant idea one day that hang on, politics is more complicated than left versus right. And so he was like, what if we make it two-dimensional? What if we make it two-dimensional? And so he created another axis that was authoritarian versus libertarian, right? But the problem with that, of course, is that it makes politics very two-dimensional, not very complex. Politics is still quite a lot more complicated than this. But this is an interesting start. And you'll notice, so the x-axis is left and right. And then the y-axis is authoritarian libertarian. And the authoritarian left quadrant is red, which is fitting for, the Reds, the commies. The authoritarian right quadrant is blue, which is, fitting. It's kind of the conservative color. Even though in America, for some reason, we switched those around. I guess it's because... fuck if I know. Why did they switch around? Because it used to actually make sense because the Union Army wore blue back in the Civil War, and they were, represented by the Republican Party. And so it kind of they used to actually represent the parties the opposite colors back in the old election maps. But for some reason, at some point, it switched, and now the Democrats are blue, and I don't know why. Because it makes less sense, because traditionally blue is the color of conservatism. But then we have green for libertarian left, which makes sense because we have green parties and whatnot. But then the one that doesn't make sense is purple for libertarian right, because it should be yellow. And everybody realized this. It should be yellow because yellow is the color of liberalism. It should be yellow, and it's also the color of libertarianism, like right-wing libertarianism. So yeah, that's odd. But you can see here, he has rendered these pictures of different people. So he has Joseph Stalin and Chairman Mao. But if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't gonna make it with anyone anyhow. They're in authoritarian left. I guess that makes sense. Then we have Thomas Hobbes and a very scary picture of Margaret Thatcher, I think. I mean, look into those eyes. She has no eyebrows. Like, what the fuck? And then we have Peter Kropotkin down here in Lib Left. I don't know who that woman is. We have Ayn Rand. I don't know who that man is next to her. But we're not supposed to be talking about the website. We're supposed to be talking about the test. So let's take the test. Now, as I take this test, I'm going to go through all the reasons why I think this is a really dumb test, okay? So, and I don't have a lot of very strong political opinions anyway. I don't have a lot of firm political opinions, so I'm not gonna I'm probably not gonna have the most interesting results. But this is more about critiquing the test. So, see, this one, immediately the first question is stupid because it says if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Now, the reason this is stupid is because a lot of people think that these are not mutually exclusive goals. A lot of people believe that the interests of humanity are best served when also serving the interests of transnational corporations. So automatically here we have a bias. We have this guy is clearly a leftist or a liberal of some sort, and he's like clearly making a distinction between the well-being of humanity and the well-being of transnational corporations. But as Mitt Romney said, corporations are people. So there is no distinction. And so, do I agree? I mean, obviously I'm going to agree with that a little bit because it's set up for you to agree, right? It's setting up for you to agree, and then it calls you left because you agree. But that doesn't make sense. Because most people in their right minds would agree with this, whether they're left or right. And then here we have, I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. Now that's not a terrible question. Because I guess there are people who think that way. What do I think about it? I mean, I don't really agree. I mean, I like the idea of just being like, fuck it, fuck logic. But I don't know if I can totally get behind it in honesty. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Yeah, okay, so this is an interesting one, I guess. Like, what does it mean to be proud of your country? Or to be proud to be an American, And I'm proud to be an American, 'cause at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died to give that right to me, and I proudly stand up. I don't know. Like, is it foolish to be proud of your country of birth? I mean, no. Is it foolish to be proud of the fact that you were born in that country? Because I think that's a different question. Right? Like, it is kind of weird to be like, I'm proud to be born here. Like, what does that even mean? What exactly are you proud of in that arrangement? But just based on the verbiage of this sentence, I'm going to say no, because it's not foolish to be proud of your country just because you didn't choose to be born there. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. So, I mean, there's a select few people who are going to say strongly agree on this. Like, I'm going to say disagree, but do I really know or give a fuck? Not really. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. See, this is a weird one. Like, why is this authoritarian or libertarian? Why would this be left or right? This seems like more of just a question of strategy. Like, it has nothing to do with how authoritarian or libertarian you are, right? Saying the enemy of your enemy is your friend. Like, that's that's a question of morality and strategy that's not really connected to this political compass. Mm, I spilled. Oh no. Um, but do I agree with the enemy of my enemy is my friend? I mean, I want everyone to be my friend, so strongly agree. There you go. Um, Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Um, okay. So I'm guessing if you answer yes on this one, that means you're authoritarian, right? Because that means you're exercising your authority over an international body. Um, I mean, the whole question of international law, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? I don't. It's not easy for me to parse out. Um, I do like the idea of cooperation between nations. I think that's important. So I guess I am in favor of the idea of international law, which means, if there is law, then it can't be defied. So I'm going to say strongly disagree with this one. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. See, this is one that just doesn't belong on this list. I mean, I guess if you answer agree, then you're saying you're more authoritarian, but that doesn't mean that you want to do something to stop the fusion of information and entertainment with the government. You can be concerned about that and have it not be a question of authority. And so, actually, personally, I think that there's not enough fusion of information and entertainment because people are fucking bored by information. We need to make it more entertaining, and that's what I'm trying to do with my YouTube videos. I'm trying to make information entertaining. And have it still be good information. In fact, have it be better information than most of the information you see because it's more digestible. So I think we need more of that. Maybe you can criticize the way it's done sometimes, but generally I think it's a good thing. So I'm going to say strongly disagree. Now the economy. We're talking attitudes here, not FTSE index. I don't even know what the FTSE index is, but okay. These are attitudes about the economy, right? People are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. So this would be a left-right thing, I guess. And this is something that I don't know. Like, I think there's kind of, we're divided by class and we're divided by nationality. I don't know that there's, it's one or the other. I think it's a both thing, I mean, it really is. So I disagree with the premise that one, like, because if I say disagree, does that mean that I disagree and therefore neither is more divisive than the other? Or does it mean I disagree and therefore nationality is more divisive than class? Which of those is true? It's not clear by the verbiage. So it's not a very well written question for the kind of multiple choice answers that we have. But I'm going to say disagree, because either way I disagree, I guess. controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. So I guess this is a left-right thing because I guess the left cares more about unemployment than inflation. The right cares more about inflation. I don't know, and see, this is like, how do you answer this one? Because currency, our currency is what our whole economic system is based on. You know, and so if you don't have a strong currency, you don't have a strong economy. But at the same time, you can't have a strong economy if everyone's unemployed, if nobody can actually work for that economy. So they're both important. I don't think one is more important than the other. So what do I answer here? I guess disagree, because I disagree with the premise, but that doesn't mean I think one is more important than the other. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I strongly agree with that, obviously. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Strongly agree. I guess that's going to be that's going to really push me left on the x-axis there. The freer the market, the freer the people. So, I mean, what if you don't value freedom, right? I think this verbiage kind of implies that we all think freedom is important. But what if you're like, no, I don't believe in a free market, and that's because I don't believe in freedom, because I think that we're better off when we're not free. That's a different perspective. That's an authoritarian left perspective, I guess. Or I guess it could be authoritarian right, too. So, yeah, the freer the market, the freer the people. I guess I would agree. I mean, what does free mean, right? Like, literally, are we more free when we have a free market? Yeah, I think we are. But, like, freedom can mean a different thing to a different person. And, there's an aspect of freedom that's more about being able to do different things that you want to do, which some people would say is more possible when you have regulations on the market. But then there's another kind of freedom that just is, we're not restricted by any authority from doing what we want to do. So there's different ways to interpret even the concept of freedom. So this question here is not clear what exactly it's asking. But if you read between the lines, what it's really asking, beneath all the bullshit that, all that cultural bullshit that masks its true meaning, what it's really asking you is whether you agree with a free market approach to the economy. And I disagree. And so I'm going to say disagree. But it's only because I'm reading between the lines. I wish that they would just give you the question to answer. Like, be straight with me. Do you agree with free market economics? Yes or no? But instead they have to pull this shit. This, like, presidential campaign crap. I don't want it. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. Now, I guess, like, this is a question of values that determines, like, if you're a libertarian or not. But I don't see what use this question really is. I mean, Like, does anybody actually care? I know that George Carlin did a little um, joke about how, or no, it might not have been George Carlin. It might have been Lewis Black. Did a joke about how like water is now bottled and sold. But like, does anyone actually care? Like, what kind of a question is this? Does anybody actually care that you can go to the store and buy water? It's convenient. It's convenient. Just buy some fucking water. Now, it is a problem if you're someone like Michael Moore and the place where you live doesn't have clean drinking water, and so you have to buy bottled water to survive. Obviously, I don't think Michael Moore actually lives in Flint, Michigan anymore, but he talks like he lives there. Um, Maybe he does. I don't know. Does Michael Moore still live in Flint, Michigan? That would be interesting. I kind of wouldn't put it past him, but he's had so much success, I wouldn't expect it. Um, but like, yeah, like it's just not a great question. Anyway, is it a sad? No, it's not. I'm gonna say strongly disagree. It's not. It's not a sad reflection on our society. Don't be stupid. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Um, well, how else are you gonna divide it up? I mean, I'm willing to hear alternatives, you know? But like I don't really know what like what is a better approach. I would say, this is supposed to be about attitudes, not FTSE index or whatever that means. So to say land shouldn't be a commodity be bought and sold, I kind of like that in sentiment. Maybe it fits my attitude, so I'll agree to that. It's regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. See, this is something I remember the Amazing Atheist talking about when I was first getting into his videos. He would make videos talking about like Occupy Wall Street and stuff, and he was like making this point that like these people don't actually work. They just have created machines that print money for them, basically. I would say I agree with this, and this is something that both fascists and communists can agree with. If you don't work, you shouldn't get money for not working, You work, you get the money. That's pretty fair. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. This is, I don't know. I mean, it's up in the, and there's no I don't know button, right? There should be an I don't know button because most things in life are I don't know, But when it forces you to agree or disagree, you have this situation where I think it's gonna put you at a spot on the compass that you wouldn't actually be at because you can't just say I don't know. But is protectionism sometimes necessary in trade? Maybe. I'll tentatively agree. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. I would strongly disagree with that. The rich are too highly taxed. See, and this is a question like too highly taxed based on what? What situation are you talking about? Are you talking about in America right now? What country are you talking about? The rich are too highly taxed. Where? it doesn't tell you. So it's very strange. It's almost like it's saying that the right-wing opinion is perpetually that the rich are too highly taxed. The right will never agree that the rich are adequately taxed, you know? Um, so I'm going to say I disagree with this because I don't know. I don't I don't really buy into the whole idea that it hurts the poor to tax the rich people more. Seems a little too convenient to me. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. This is an interesting question. It's a part of the whole debate around public health care. I don't really know what to think about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. The thing is that healthcare is a very expensive sector of the economy. And there are ways to make it a lot less expensive, but it's still going to be quite expensive because you need people who are expertly trained and a lot of equipment. So, you know, I'm not always super gung ho about trying to put all of that burden on the government because I don't know if the government can take that much of a burden, honestly. And I've heard of countries like Switzerland where they have private health care and they have also very good health care, unlike the United States. So, but this is, this is a question of morals, I guess. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care, like it's a right. And I guess I disagree with this because it's like, I don't think having money means that you like deserve a better standard than other people. So I'm going to disagree with that. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Strongly agree. And that's even though I hate Elizabeth Warren for her shenanigans in the last election, I do really like some of her work as a senator, and that was one thing that she did well was establish the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in order to stop businesses from misleading the public like this. So that was a good thing. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. See, this language is weird. A genuine free market requires restrictions. No. Absolutely not. Strongly disagree. That goes against the very verbiage you're using. But it's like it's this fetishization of the concept of freedom. Like they think, "Oh, freedom is always good." And so more free means more good. So when we're really what they're doing is when they're asking you if something is free, what they're really asking you is it good? But that's the wrong way to look at politics entirely. You know? So now page 3 of 6, take a look at some of your personal social values. Ooh, we're getting into my social values. Okay. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Um, I just don't give a fuck about fetuses, man. Like, they they can all fucking die for all I care. Like, we have better things to worry about, is what I'm saying. Like, we have actual human beings to worry about. And I know technically fetuses are human beings. But, like, come on. Just, like, give up on that mission. I'm sorry. Like, you know, I think we should be kind to animals. And I do think abortion is unfortunate because it isn't kind to fetuses. But, you know, you got to break a few eggs sometimes. You know, sometimes you have an ant infestation in your house. You just got to gas those bastards. You know? Like, sorry. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree. I agree with that. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. What? An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. What? Obviously, we know what it means. But I just wish the verbiage would be more clear. But yeah, this is an old thing that comes from the law code of Hammurabi back in the Babylonian times. And it was kind of an interesting idea at the time. Like, you know, a punishment should fit the crime. But I don't agree with that. And part of the reason why I don't agree with that is that the justice system is imperfect, and so it's going to make mistakes. So that alone should disqualify this old maxim. But I guess for the time it was cool, you know, thousands of years ago, but people are still fucking talking about it for some reason. When was this? Like 2600 BC? 1700 BC? I think it's more like 1700 BC. Yeah. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. This was actually something the Corys, oddly enough, made a parody song about. Where, like, Ronnie Brown put on this fake posh English accent and sang this song about, like, oh, we should funnel all the public money into theaters and museums. I don't know why he had such a bone to pick with that. I think that there's value in certain things that can't make a profit. So I would disagree with this. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I would disagree with this because I don't want a bunch of fucking morons living in this world. So strongly disagree. I will infringe on your liberty by making you go to school. Got that? All people have their rights. But ooh, all right, let's hear the but. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Yeah, this was basically Oswald Mosley's take on race. Like, hey, we shouldn't mistreat other races. All races should get along with each other and live in harmony. But, you know, do we have to do it together? I mean, this is a valid position. I don't think this is disgustingly racist like a lot of people think. I don't really agree with it because I think it's counterproductive for the goal of having a united society, united world. Um, but I can see some people have different priorities there. Um, but I would disagree with this. Yeah. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Yeah, this is very political, isn't it? This this is putting me on track to become Joseph Stalin if I agree with this. Um, do good parents sometimes have to spank their children? I mean, I don't know. Like, do we have to spank adults too? I think we should be spanking adults. I think adults have been too naughty. They need to be spanked. Start with me. Spank me first. I don't know. Like, is there ever something you can accomplish by spanking that you can't accomplish by not committing an act of violence? Because the thing is, like, I don't like this promotion of violence as the solution to our problems, right? Like, isn't that kind of part of the issue that we just feel like we have to resort to violence all the time? Like, aren't there better ways to settle our differences? So I'm going to say I strongly disagree with this just because I strongly disagree with initiating violence as a strategy. Although, I also, I don't know. Like, is that the right opinion, though? Maybe I should just disagree with this. Because sometimes violence is important. I don't know. I can't say 100% on that. But it just seems like a bad idea. Seems like kind of a Neolithic approach to a 21st century problem. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. See, this is not political. This is not political, and this is not a question of authoritarian versus libertarian. Anybody who's not a total idiot, whether you're alt-right, lib-left, whatever, is going to agree that it's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. This is an idiot filter, not a political opinion categorizer. The question is not if it's natural. The question is if it's good. And this is another problem with the verbiage. This is sloppy verbiage. This is time and time again, we're running into this. This guy is bringing a bunch of cultural baggage into this where it doesn't belong, because this is supposed to be an objective political quiz. And yet he's making the conflation between what is good and what is natural, which is the appeal to nature logical fallacy. It is a logical fallacy that this guy's committing very implicitly through his verbiage of this statement right here. What he's really trying to ask is if it is good for children to keep secrets from their parents, or okay for children to keep secrets from their parents. But is it natural? Strongly agree. Not even going to think about the implication there. It's natural. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. It is if you call it marijuana and you're not Mexican. Yeah, I mean, it should not be a criminal offense. That's a no-duh statement. I think even if you're highly against drugs, you should agree with that. Even if you think that cannabis should be eradicated from society, it's common sense to agree that it shouldn't be a criminal offense. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Uh, that should be a function of schooling. I don't know if it needs to be the prime function, but I don't know what the prime function needs to be anyway. General education, just like learning more stuff about the world. That should be the prime function. So I guess I would disagree with that slightly. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. So this is eugenics. And I think it's weird how touchy we are about the idea of the government telling you can't have a kid. It's weird how touchy we are about that. It's weird that we consider it a basic human right to have a kid. Like, why exactly? Because, like, you don't have to do anything to have a kid. You know how much bullshit you got to go through to adopt a kid? Oh, it's crazy. And then people still slip through the cracks. Like, the foster system is basically a child sex trafficking ring. That's all it is, basically. But like, I don't know. Like, I just think it's weird that we're so protective of this basic human right. Like, why this one? Why does this one matter so much to people? Um, I think that people with serious, like, I don't think that anyone with cystic fibrosis should be reproducing, right? But does that mean that they shouldn't be allowed to reproduce? It kind of reminds me of in The Life of Brian, when they're like, Stan, why are you so obsessed with women? And he says, because I want to be one. And they're like, well, why do you want to be a woman? And he says, because I want to have babies. And John Cleese is like, but you can't have babies. And then the woman of the group is like, we can agree that even if Stan or Loretta can't have babies, he should have the right to have babies. Like, so we're making a distinction between whether someone should have the right to do something even though they shouldn't do it. I don't really know, because I don't know where to fall on that exactly, but I kind of think that you shouldn't be doing this, so I agree that you just shouldn't. Just don't. Just don't. You know, if you got cystic fibrosis, don't have a kid. I'm sorry. I'm going to agree with this. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. That's the most important thing for them to learn? Strongly disagree. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Well, some cultures are savage. Some cultures are civilized. I think that's a matter of development. I think the word savage has a negative connotation. I don't necessarily think of it that way. I'm going to slightly disagree with this one. There are advantages to having civilization and there are advantages to not having civilization. Let me just say that. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not accept society's support. I mean, that's common sense, sure. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. This is not political. There is no way in which this is political. What the hell are you talking about? Like, what does this even do to your score on this test? Like, does this make you more authoritarian? It doesn't make any sense. But answering the question, I mean, sometimes you got to think about it, other times you shouldn't. I think generally people have a tendency to obsess over negativity. And so if it's possible for them to just move past it, they probably should. So I'll agree with that. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I guess it depends on how young they are when they come over, um, and how able they are to acquire a new language. Because really, language barrier is the main thing that we're talking about. Um, if you can master the language and the accent to the point where you have very little accent, then you're gonna feel a lot more integrated. People are gonna treat you a lot better. People are gonna treat you like you're more integrated. Um, so I guess I would disagree because I don't think that it's impossible to be fully integrated, whatever that really means. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. See, this him even putting this question in here, he should have realized that his first question was stupid about how like international trade should benefit people rather than corporations. Like, he's acknowledging that that's not even a premise or a dichotomy that everyone agrees with. So, I mean, what's good for the most successful corporations? I'm not convinced that corporations even know what's good for them, honestly. I'm going to strongly disagree with this, of course. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Um, I guess I disagree with that. I don't. I don't really care that much. So now it's asking how I view the wider society. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. See, this is a very current day thing. Like, this was done in 2001. I mean, come on. Like, it whatever you answer this is going to depend on what the political situation is in your country and the time that you're taking this quiz. And so it's a matter of degrees. But, what do I think? I mean, I don't know that I care. There's a lot of people, like, I know The Amazing Atheist was big against all this sort of Patriot Act and curbing civil liberties and like the airport stuff, the security and all that. The I know a lot of people were upset about like the phone line tapping and all that. The only thing that I really care about in all of that is the thing about the Guantanamo Bay loophole, how they're able to get away with things that are unconstitutional because they're not on U.S. soil. So I would agree with this because I don't like that. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that, see, already we have a problem because you can have an advantage of a system while not necessarily agreeing that that advantage justifies the system. So again, another sloppy verbiage. Should have tightened that up. But a significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Evola actually brought up an interesting criticism of the one-party state, which is that the whole idea of a party implies that there's more than one, because it's a part. It's a party, and you have to have two parties to exchange with each other. And so it's weird to create a one-party state, because that's sort of an implicitly divisive idea, whereas that was Evola's criticism. One of his criticisms of fascism is he thought that they should get rid of parties altogether and create the impression that this is the true state, the legitimate state that is not a matter of party. It's not a matter of aligning with the interests of any one particular group. It's a matter of uniting the interests of the entire country. But I would agree that this is an advantage of a one-party state, for sure. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Well, I think sometimes, I don't know, like, it could probably cause problems, right? I don't know what problems precisely it can cause. I mean, if surveillance actually does help curb terrorism and stuff, do I really care that they're spying on us? Not really. I've never been someone who really gave a shit about spying. I'll be honest, about like privacy and that stuff. Never really cared that much. I can kind of see why other people are big on it, but but I don't know. Like, do I agree with this or not? I don't really know a whole lot about this situation. But I guess I kind of like just gut feeling kind of agree with it, you know? The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. No, because the justice system is imperfect. And nobody seems to get this. Like, the pro death penalty people are so stupid because they'll always give you the same emotional argument over and over. And they have no actual counter for the argument that you're providing. It's frustrating. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. That's an interesting question because I've looked a little bit into the whole anarchist kind of method of flattened hierarchies. And that applies to army and defense as well as to civic life. I don't really know what's the better system. I think definitely authoritarianism and hierarchical thinking goes too far, and people think, oh yeah, hierarchy is the best, most efficient way of getting things done, when actually, in reality, a lot of times it isn't, because you're not getting the multiplicity of opinion that you would get in a more flattened system. And that's something that I heard about on a podcast called Heretics. They were talking about how the Confucian legacy in Korea created a culture in South Korean airlines that actually resulted in more plane crashes because the hierarchy prevented people from relaying vital information and getting their opinion across, which actually prevents disasters. And so a lot of times this sort of hierarchical thinking can be really detrimental to a functioning society, I think. That was also a criticism that Evola offered of fascism, with Mussolini's ministers uh, being afraid to question his judgment. He said, basically, what's the point of having more than one person in the room if only one person gets to speak? Um, so, but, is this basic premise true that in a civilized society one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded? Maybe. I don't know. Like, would it just fall apart if we don't have those distinctions? Or would people be actually better able to work together? I kind of, I don't know. I'm not an anarchist, so I'm going to say agree. But there's a lot of wiggle room in that agree, I guess. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. This is not political. This doesn't tell you shit about, whether you're authoritarian or libertarian or left or right. Now, sometimes this kind of opinion coincides with right wing thought, like with, PragerU making videos about this kind of thing. But that's a coincidence. It doesn't tell you anything about the fundamentals of this political philosophy. You can agree with this statement and have a totally different political philosophy, and I don't think that should impact your score. But should it not be considered art at all? Strongly disagree, because, like, I think people obsess way too much over the idea of something being art as if that means anything. It doesn't mean anything. An art is just a craft or a skill that you can learn how to do. That is what an art is. Anything can be an art, and anything that you create can therefore be art. Okay? It's not something special. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly disagree. I think, because again, the justice system is imperfect. So, I think people shouldn't be punished. I don't believe in punishment. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, yeah, because some people just aren't. Some people just are a waste of time, yeah. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. This is another question where if I say disagree, do I think that the writer and the artist are more important than the business person and the manufacturer? But I would disagree. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I mean, this is like prescribing a way of life on to other people. And this is something I think is stupid about the right wing mentality, is they think, oh, I've figured everything out. Oh, I know. Oh yeah, like I know exactly how people should live their lives. No, you don't. So I would disagree. Almost all politicians promise economic growth, but we should heed the warnings of climate science that growth is detrimental to our efforts to curb global warming. Strongly agree, and I think that growth is detrimental to itself in the long run. It's unsustainable to just have nothing but growth. We need to focus on degrowth strategies for improvement. Improvement without growth. That's what we need. And it's not just climate science, it's freaking water, man. We're running out of water. Anybody who says that overpopulation is a myth is a dumbass, because, like, what about the water? Like, we don't have infinite fresh water, man. We gotta conserve what we got. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I really hate the concept of maturity in general. I cringe whenever anyone talks about maturity or says the word mature. It's disgusting to me. Because, making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I mean, at a certain point, it's just like not useful to just be entirely anti-establishment all the time. You'll end up like Charles Manson, It's just like at a certain point you gotta realize that you gotta work with what you got. So I guess I'll agree with that slightly. Next page. If you got through that okay, you'll find these propositions on religion a breeze. Okay. Astrology accurately explains many things. This has nothing to do with politics. Nothing to do with politics. Like, this absolutely jack shit to do with politics. This is like the most egregious one so far. Like, what is with these questions? What do they tell you about your position on these two axes that this guy laid out? But does it accurately explain many things? No, strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. Well, that's been proven wrong by the fact that people have invented moral systems that have nothing to do with religion. Like, that's a verifiably proven false proposition. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I don't know. Certainly I'd rather have, like, if we're talking about like retirement social security, I mean, that you gotta have that, right? So I'm gonna disagree with this on the premise that, like, you gotta at least have the old people social security, because that was an ingenious idea. Like, let's have the young people of today pay for the old people's retirement. And then the people who are paying now will get the money in the future when the next generation pays for them. I mean, that's a cool idea. That's just smart. You'd be a moron not to like that idea. Some people are naturally unlucky. What does this have to do with politics? I mean, I guess, like, some people just have bad luck. What does that mean, to be naturally unlucky? Does it mean you just have bad luck, or does it mean you have a quality about you that is intrinsically lucky or unlucky? I guess that's what it's supposed to mean. So I'm going to say disagree, but I don't really care for that question in any way. I don't like the verbiage, and I don't like the meaning of it. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. I think it should instill anti-religious values. Finally, a look at sex. Ooh. It's fitting that we're in my bed now. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. I would disagree with that. I think I don't see what like is marriage even moral in the first place? I'm not even convinced of that. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Um I don't know. I don't know how you should be raising kids, man. I don't know what the proper answer for this is. Like what do kids really need in life? So I'm not going to make any judgments. I'm going to disagree with any like propositions about that just cuz I'm not a child psychologist. I don't know how to work that out. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Man, the people who want to ban pornography, I can't even believe them. I can't even believe them. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I mean, what business would they have with that? Like, what's the practical concern there? Like, how is that interfering with the other business of state? So I guess I would agree. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I was arguing with a guy on the Fascism Reclaimed subreddit who was arguing this. But the weird thing is he was saying things which kind of implied that he was a homosexual. I mean, I sometimes feel homosexual. Is that natural? Is it a natural feeling or is that an unnatural feeling? I mean, God, my ear is squeaking. Why is my ear squeaking so much? Ah, that's annoying. Do you ever have a squeaky ear? I never do. I don't know what that's about. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I mean, we all recognize that people can feel homosexual, but whether it's naturally, because I feel homosexual quite often, but is it natural? I mean, I guess everything is natural because we are animals of nature. So I would strongly disagree with that. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. It has not gone far enough. I'll strongly disagree with that. Now let's see where I stand. Come on, load. Oh, man. Oh, there we go. So, yeah, apparently. Oh, what a shock. What a shock. I am lib left. I never could have guessed that. And that's the biggest criticism that people have with this test is that it puts everybody in the lower left quadrant. Unless you're an insane psychopath, then you're put in the other three quadrants. But any reasonable person basically gets put in libertarian left. So really flawed quiz. And then let's look at this up here. So he puts certain countries on this graph here. It's interesting. I guess, I mean, it kind of looks pretty accurate to me, honestly. Yeah, I guess this guy's a caricature artist too. But yeah, I guess that's really it for this test. It's not a good test. It has very skewed results, very poorly thought out questions. Um, Obviously, a very simplistic view of politics, but it's kind of fun. This is the most popular one of these political tests, but there are many others out there that I have tried. And so I'm probably going to be making more videos in the future critiquing these various tests because I find them interesting how they categorize ideas. So with that said, have a good night. This is VEDN day 25. I can actually check on my computer screen this time. VEDN day 25. I'll see you tomorrow for VEDN day 26.